Y'all, the more and more I dig into some of the major and minor prophets in the Old Testament, the more and more I find this frightening correlation to Israel pre-exile and the church today. And it's frightening because it feels like we are repeating a lot of history, even though we have a manual for how not to. So, you guys know the state of the northern and southern kingdoms in Israel. Prior to the exile, they had split into two, into Israel and Judah. And both kingdoms were doing ratchet things. Both kingdoms were worshiping false idols, doing a lot of pagan things in the temple, inviting their idols into the temple of the Lord, desecrating the temple and all that good stuff. And I'm going to read a quick excerpt from one of the books I'm digging into, which is Amos. This is just in regard to the cultural theme of the time. This isn't actually from the chapter or the books in Amos. This is the Israelites came to believe that observance of religious rites at the sacred places was all that God was interested in, and that outside of their worship activities, they could do whatever they please. They had not faithfully consecrated themselves to his lordship. So, very similar to what we see in the church today, unfortunately. The Israelites had understood the things that God was asking them to do as the totality of who they were supposed to be. So the religious rites in the sacred places, like offering sacrifices on the altars and things like that, they had come to understand that as the totality of who they were supposed to be. And outside of that, they could do whatever they want, and they did some ratchet things. They did some pretty wild things. It's like they didn't actually understand who they were called to be. And so you find all of these outside influences being able to come in and penetrate the holy standards that the Lord had previously set for Israel, because outside of what I'm supposed to do in these sacred places, one of those places being Bethel, that was a worship center in Israel, it had become extremely paganized. And Amos himself, even in chapter 5, I think it is, he says, seek the Lord and live. Don't seek Bethel. Don't seek this worship place that honestly is getting it so wrong. Seek the Lord and live. So Israel ended up being exiled to Assyria prior to Judah being exiled to Babylon. And what the crazy part is about Assyria is that you read in Jonah specifically how the Lord had sent Jonah to warn Assyria about the same things that Israel was getting wrong. All their pagan worship, all their idol worship, the fact that they had forgotten the Lord. The Lord sent Jonah to warn Assyria about these things. And that's the reason Jonah was like, no, I don't want to do it, because he knew. And when Jonah went and warned Assyria, the Assyrians were like, whoa, we got to stop doing what we're doing. We got to turn it around. We got to fix it. I think the king himself made a decree. He did. And said, do not let people or animals, herds or flocks taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink, but let the people and animals be covered with sackcloth. That's how they mourned. Let everyone call urgently on God. Let them give up their evil ways and violence. And then who knows? Maybe God might relent and have compassion and turn his fierce anger with us. They're like, let's just do it because maybe he will. And he did. And he did. So God was intent to punish Assyria for all of their crude acts. But the king of Assyria was like, let's stop this. Let's call on the Lord and maybe he'll forgive. And he did. Israel, when they got the same prophecy from all of the major and minor prophets that you read in the Bible, most of the kings of Israel and Judah were like, psh, he's crazy. Psh, God won't do that to us. We're good. We're his chosen people. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. All these extracurricular activities, psh, there's nothing wrong with that. Which is the reason they were exiled to to Assyria, like Assyria conquered them. They conquered Israel. And then Judah to Babylon. The Lord says back in Amos, the answer is to seek him. Do not seek the things of him, and to seek him in totality. It's not about the rituals and the practices. It's not about the things of God. It's about God. Seek him and live.